microphone. If not, and you don't need to queue up. We'll bring mics to you.
I was a plan, I'll tell you that. Hi, my name is Stephanie, and I'm a mom of 2 boys, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. My 2 boys love being outside, exploring for critters, and getting lost in nature, which I love, because in my day job, I'm an environmental scientist and professor. I have a PhD in earth sciences. I usually don't go around telling people I have a PhD, but Congressman Wittman also has advanced degrees. He has a PhD in public policy and a master's in public health. He spent his political career touting his credentials as both a scientist and conservationist. He wears his love of the outdoors like a badge of honor. When it comes to casting votes that protect public health, support scientific research, and defend our environment, he fails repeatedly. Wittman supported Donald Trump's budget that slashed funding for the NIH by 40% and gutted the CDC by 70%. These cuts mean abandoned cancer studies, stalled vaccine development, and shuttered public health labs. The Republican budget resolution, again, which Wittman voted for, would mean Virginia's 1st district alone, his district, would lose $1.2 billion in Medicaid and children's health insurance program funding and leave over 10% of our district's population without health care. This is not leadership. This is negligence masquerading as fiscal conservatism. In my day job, I'm an environmental scientist. I recently lost some NASA funding to study Virginia's rapidly changing climate. Along with ideally helping Virginia become a more resilient state, this NASA funding would have provided research opportunities for dozens of undergraduate students, recent graduates, and early career environmental scientists. These DOGE cuts risk creating a lost generation of scientists. Students and early career researchers who depend on these opportunities to gain experience and build careers are now being pushed out of the field. I teach the senior capstone class in my department. I know the graduating college seniors well. We have so many talented college graduates this year who are not going to graduate school because they do not have the funding. The United States is literally undermining itself. With these cuts, the United States will no longer be a world leader in fostering scientific talent, and I'm already seeing it firsthand with the class of 2025. And let's talk about climate. Something Congressman Wittman should understand as an avid fisherman who's watched and I guess ignored rising sea levels eat away at his district's coastline. It's hotter here than it used to be. It's a lot more humid here than it used to be. The droughts are getting longer, and when it does storm, the amount of rain that should fall in a month falls in a day. Everyone's allergies are getting worse. Mosquito season is endless, and sea level is rising on our state's coastline faster than almost anywhere else in the United States. But despite being this avid outdoorsman who claims to care about conservation, and this is a direct quote from his Earth Day post, and I have to keep quoting from his Instagram because he's not here, ensuring future generations can enjoy the beauty of our 1st district, time and time again, Rob Wittman has voted to defund cost-saving clean energy research and development. In 2023, 23 million park visitors spent $1.5 billion visiting the national parklands in Virginia. But because of these cuts to funding, our national parks are going to be understaffed and underserviced. Make it make economic sense. I'm not quite sure how Rob Wittman is ensuring future generations can experience all Virginia has to offer while voting to cut everything that will preserve and protect these spaces. There was a time Rob Wittman was taking me to his constituents. About 2 years ago, a bipartisan group of moms passionate about gun violence prevention, we had a sit-down meeting with the congressman. I was a part of this group, and we were looking for any common ground on gun prevention and gun safety. Any inroads the congressman might make. Gun violence kills over 40,000 Americans a year. And Rob Wittman, as you saw from his rating, has voted against even modest, bipartisan gun violence prevention legislation. When we asked him about handgun waiting periods, his response was, well, what if my buddy wants to go fishing tomorrow? When we asked him about safe storage laws to protect kids, he said, I practice
slow down your speech. Without a mic, we can't catch your words.
Oh, it's not
Mike,
I'm so sorry. I thought I was ready.
Hello?
Yeah.
So Rob Wittman was taking me with constituents. 2 years ago, a bipartisan group of moms passionate about gun violence prevention had a sit-down meeting with a congressman. I was a part of this group, and we were just looking for any common ground, any headway that we could make with Rob Wittman. Because gun violence kills over 40,000 Americans a year.
Rob Wittman has voted against even modest, bipartisan gun violence prevention legislation. And when we asked him about waiting periods for a handgun, he said, nope, what if my buddy wants to hunt tomorrow? When we asked him about safe storage laws, mostly to protect children, he said, I practice it at home, but I won't vote for it. He's repeatedly opposed funding for CDC gun violence research. This is a man with an advanced degree in public health who refuses to treat gun deaths like the public health crisis that they are. You can't have it both ways. You can't claim to be a former scientist and vote to defund science. You can't claim to care about health while slashing the nation's health infrastructure. You cannot claim to love the outdoors while enabling the destruction of the environment. America was built on science, innovation, and creativity. Rob Wittman is jeopardizing the health of his constituents, the stability of our climate, and the future of science in this country. We need a leader who doesn't just talk about his advanced degrees and love of fishing. We need a leader who understands the importance of science and innovation. We need a leader who treats facts like facts and crises like crises. Rob Wittman has had the training, the tools, and the trust, and he's failed on all counts. We deserve better. Thank you.
Raise your hand and one of our microphone runners will come to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Kim Catley. I live in Hanover. So I have worked for universities for about 15 years before starting my own business, providing writing and communications for colleges and nonprofits around the country. I'm part of a network of small business owners here in the Richmond area. We regularly refer work to one another, hire one another. And my flexible schedule also allows me to be really involved in my kids' schools and volunteer regularly. So it's kind of created this great arrangement for me and this community. Steph spoke about the extremely important losses that come from cuts to grant funding and the work we're losing there, but there are also, these cuts are going to ripple out and reach farther and farther into our community. Universities are really big economic drivers. Here in the Richmond area, they're one of the biggest employers. They bring thousands of students who live, shop, eat, and more in our area. When I was in-house in my area, we regularly hired designers, writers, web development companies, branding agencies, printers, and more, and many of those were local businesses. When we freeze and pull federal money for universities, it's absolutely going to impact the students and the important research that's going on, but it's already leading to layoffs. Johns Hopkins, they've already laid off more than 2,000 people, and that's going to continue to happen at universities. But these budget realignments are also going to lead to decisions about whether or not to spend money on local businesses as well. So the effects of taking a hatchet to our government are going to go far, far beyond what we can already see.
My name is Beth, and I have 4 points I want to mention. One is tyranny. What have you been doing, Representative Wittman, to slow the development of tyranny in our country? I'm sure you love this country, as we all do, but what are you doing? And some examples of tyranny that are taking place now are taking people off the streets who are lawful immigrants and also who are U.S. citizens. Another example is intimidating judges to those who are not loyal to him and who do not follow his executive orders. And a third example is pardons for those who committed violent and non-violent crimes, including assaulting officers. My second point is the weakening of Medicare, the cuts in funding. My daughter lives in Ohio, and she's on Medicare. And she works very hard, but she's just making money to pay the rent. And if she doesn't have Medicare and she has health problems, I don't know what we will do. Third is the weakening of Social Security. I'm a senior. And just laying off the workers of Social Security, trying to make a phone call. I don't do computers. I call. And normally I'll get an answer within a half hour or so. When I called 3 weeks ago, I couldn't get through at all. And then I called a few days later, and it took 50 minutes. And it was just a very simple concern. And my fourth one is, please vote against, if it's in the reconciliation bill, please vote against the extension of the tax cut for the 1%. It's going to increase the deficit. And we've heard for many, many years how we have to lower the deficit. So please do your part. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any prepared remarks. What I wanted to first say is express my disappointment that our representative couldn't make it today. And I might add, cowardly couldn't make it today. For the record of who he is and who we are. He is our elected official. His role is to represent us. Not represent his interests, but to represent us collectively. But who are we? Okay, the Constitution says we are the people. Okay, so who are the people? It doesn't define us as Republicans or Democrats or independents. Okay, it's we the people. It doesn't say we the people of a certain color. And it certainly doesn't say we the rich people. I think it should say, in fact, we the regular people. I want to remind him that his role in Congress, he has certain functions that he has direct control over, and he has certain functions where he has indirect control. The direct control, as was mentioned in the earlier presentation, is that Congress has the power of the purse. Okay? You cannot tear apart the government without Congress's approval. That budget has been approved already, okay, and it has to stay. But I don't hear him saying anything about that. Right? He is silent on that matter. The same is true with the tariffs. Okay, Congress can control the tariffs. Congress can control a declaration of war. We can't just arbitrarily say we're at war, okay, and then mandate all these presidential executive orders. He hasn't done that. Things that are indirect have to do with immigration. We all agree that immigration is a problem, okay? But we can't grab people in the middle of the night and ship them out of the country without a due process, okay? That is not called deportation. That's an extortion of people against their rights and against what the Constitution allows us to do. So I think he needs to stand up and make a statement when the administration is acting either unconstitutionally or unlawfully. Now, he may not control it directly, but he has a right by representing us to say what is true and what isn't true.
Yes.
Okay? And I may not have the details on this correctly because I don't follow it as tightly as I should. But I know there have been presentations in Congress to pass some resolutions that may have been more beneficial to a lot of these causes. And what Mike Johnson has done, where instead of having the obligation to vote within 14 days, incredibly passed a resolution that said we're going to count the rest of the congressional session for 2025 as one day. As one day. So therefore, it meets the rule of we don't have to vote in 14 days and put your name on the record. And did we see his hand go up against that? No. So I just want to close in saying, again, your job is to represent our interests. You should be here, and you're not. Thank you.
The act of disappearing human beings. The U.S. rule of law and freedom.
Hold the mic up.
Congressman Wittman, I'm trying to address the chair. Hundreds of Venezuelan immigrants in the U.S. now sit in an infamous prison in El Salvador. They were sent there illegally by the Trump administration. They received no judicial hearing. Do you agree with our president ignoring the law? It's the rule of law that people, when they get deported for the first time, they need to see a judge. That's part of it. They were sent over without that. So, President Trump admitted that one of these men, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, was deported by mistake, but he has refused to help to bring him back, despite the fact that the Supreme Court unanimously told him to do so. Do you agree with ignoring the Supreme Court? And does that fit into the concept of checks and balances? No. I'm trying to figure out if I'm shaking because I'm nervous or I'm so damn mad. In addition, this administration snatches students who are here legally right off the street, revoking their visas for exercising their freedoms of speech or because of their religion, maybe their color, or for no reason at all. Mr. Wittman, do you believe in the U.S. rule of law, in checks and balances, in the First Amendment of the Constitution? I ask you to vote against any budget plan that increases funding for ICE and for Trump's deportation methods. Terrorism is defined as the unlimited use, the unlawful use of force to create a climate of fear in a population to bring about a particular political objective. Then Trump and his team are terrorists.
Good morning, everybody. That is going to be hard to follow. My name is Janine Schuning, and I'm a retired history and government teacher in Henrico County. And I was the organizer of the Tuckahoe Library meeting last month, and I recognized some faces. And after the meeting, we had also reached out to Wittman's office, albeit it was planned in about a week. So he didn't get a whole lot of notice, but of course he couldn't come. So we told him we'd come over to his office. So posters that people had written on, they all had headings from DOJ to national security to, you know, every other like horrible thing that's going on right now. And people had filled it up, and we took it over and we met with Joel Schumacher, his, you know, right-hand man. And he politely listened, but, you know, was generally dismissive of our concerns. And he said, well, you know, if you have a meeting in like Mechanicsville, you'll get a different response. So I got a Hanover library card last week. You can get a Hanover library card if you live in Henrico County. I did not know that, so I go get you, and it's easier to get books sometimes. So I booked the room, the largest room in Hanover Library libraries is at the Atlee Library, seats 100 people. So I booked that room for May 17th, Saturday from 10 to 1. So I'd like to invite all you. There's absolutely no plan yet on my part beyond the room and the time. But, so I would like to prove Mr. Schumacher wrong that we would get a different response in Hanover that we did at the Tuckahoe Library last month. I believe there's plenty of people throughout the 1st District who have the same concerns you and I do, they just need a forum in place. So if you have friends in Hanover, please share that with them. I don't have, I'm not an organization, so I think that one of the things we really need to do is start coordinating Neighbors for Change, Democracy Circle, rather than being in our little silos, trying to consolidate our power, rather than reinventing the wheel. So I invite any of you who want to help me with the event next month to please do so, but really I just want to tell Mr. Schumacher that there's a lot of concerned people even in Mechanicsville. For those of you who did attend that meeting, I wanted you to know that your concerns did go somewhere. We took them and we shared them. We consolidated all 200 plus questions that had been shared on the Google form ahead of time. I went through, read every question, and we basically fell into 10 categories, and you could probably all guess what they were. DOJ, Social Security, privacy concerns with our data, you can name them all. And so we gave it all to them. I shared the whole Excel spreadsheet with him, and I haven't heard a peep from him since.
Hi, I'm Teresa. I wasn't planning to speak, but I just wanted to contrast with this absence of Mr. Wittman that we have Mr. Skylar Van Valkenburg with us today. And so I just wanted to give him a round of applause for listening.
My name is Jim Coons. I am a Vietnam veteran. For veterans and for everybody else, I have 2 questions for you. Mr. Wittman, I know that you have college degree. I want to ask you if you understand the meaning of one word: facilitate. People in this room who all understand the word facilitate. And the other thing that I think I would like to ask everybody is, do you know what other leader arrested judges? Hitler, Mussolini, and other dictators arrested judges. And I think we are all very concerned about the rule of law. You as our representative can speak up on the floor and introduce resolutions supporting the rule of law and speak out about the appalling things that are happening in the White House.
Hi, my name is Lisa. I'm one of the organizers of Indivisible Central Virginia, and we would love across the state, including Janet, who spoke so eloquently a minute ago. You know, the first fear of Americans until recently was public speaking. Now are the first really legitimate fears that somebody we know is going to get sent to a concentration camp. Is America great now? I just want to say to Mr. Wittman that they are coming after Indivisible and other peaceful protesting organizations. It's next. You know, they're going after the media, they're going after the judges, they're coming after us. stand up, so they can't pick us off individually. The organizers of Indivisible say at every meeting and at every opportunity, we are peaceful. We don't set anything on fire, we don't fight, we're not in anybody's face, we are peacefully protesting. I want to ask Mr. Wittman if he's going to stand up and defend Indivisible, because they're being investigated by the FBI right now. You know, peaceful protest is the antibiotic against this infection of oligarchy. And we all need to stand up because it's coming.
Good morning. My name is Sue Brown. I'm a 75-year-old retiree receiving Social Security and Medicare. We all know Representative Wittman, what is going on in this country. I do not need to elaborate. Everybody here has already done an excellent job of that. But I would like to remind you what happened almost 250 years ago when we had our revolution against England and the Constitution was developed. And in the Constitution, it recognizes 3 separate branches of the government: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. The executive, well, okay, we know what's going on with that. The judicial is holding strong right now, and the legislative, which you are a part of, is falling down on the job. You've heard what responsibilities you have. And for some reason, there's a word in the English language right now that is stopping everybody from doing what they need to do, and that is the word Republican. So I'm going to make a proposal to all of the members of Congress. Let us get rid of the word Republican right now. Let us substitute that word with the word bipartisan. If all of the members of Congress would act as bipartisan members of our government, this government would remember what we so definitely need to remember, and that is democracy, the freedoms that we want, the rule of law, due process. If you do not act, we will lose all of that. Our current president will not change. It is up to Congress to initiate that change. Please, Mr. Wittman, earn the respect of your constituents, earn the respect of the named representative. Please act on our behalf. Thank you.
If Congressman Wittman were here today, I would remind him that his title is representative, and he can't represent his people if he isn't willing to show up and hear what we have to say. But one of the things I'd like to ask him is, as a sitting member of the U.S. House Armed Services Committee, which is responsible for overseeing the budget and operations of the Department of Defense, why do Mike Waltz and Pete Hegseth and others still have their jobs? Members of the military know that if they had behaved in the way that these people have, that they would be fired or they would be charged. These are serious risks to our country's security, and nothing has been said by him about how they are going to handle this situation. They are willfully ignoring the security of our country, and I would ask him as a member of this committee, where is the investigation and what are they doing to make sure that our country is secure?
Hi everyone, my name is Henrico County, and I'm an attorney. I also live in Henrico, and like everyone in this room, I am a constituent of Representative Rob Wittman. Like many in this room, I'm sure, I have written to him until I'm blue in the face. And at the end of every email that I can recall, there is a sentence that says, I welcome any specific concerns or ideas you may have that could contribute to creating a better future for our district and our country. Well, Representative Wittman, I have with me my pocket constitution. That I have had ever since law school. I would like for Representative Wittman to read the words that are in this constitution, particularly as it relates to amendments 4, 5, and 6. Immigration. Individuals in this nation, they also have rights. Let me read the beginning of Amendment 4. The right of the people to be secure. That does not say the right of the people that were born in this country. It does not say the right of citizens. Amendment 5, no person. Again, it does not refer to citizens of this nation. Amendment 6, the accused shall enjoy. Again, not citizens, all people. So, Representative Wittman, I ask that you read the Constitution and apply it accordingly.
So I think I'm next. I'm Catherine. I live in the West End, and I'm one of the founding members, along with Dick and some other people here, of R-VA Invisible. And so we too are really worried about the FBI and others going after organizations that are important to us and that help us push back. And another, I think my main concern today is Act Blue. Yeah. So Act Blue is how I donate to all of the candidates that I support. And it's just not a surprise that he would make up false information about Act Blue and try to close down the main way we donate to Democratic candidates. And I want to just say one last thing. I'm retired from CarMax. I love living here, and I love living in the United States, but it never, and I wish I was mad. I am mad. But more than anything, I wake up every morning terrified. I'm totally terrified. So, thank you all for coming and letting me talk.
My name is Jackie. I'm a constituent in Chesterfield County. We are strongly against the dismantling of the Department of Education. The elementary school my kids will be going to is a Title I school. They're your constituents. We're very upset about what those kinds of funding impacts are going to be. We have been so lucky in the Democrats who are serving in the Virginia General Assembly. They said that they're going to do things to try to cover that funding. But them having to spend that money means that they're not going to be able to spend our dollars in other planned ways. So, women, I ask that you please stand up for our kids and stop this dismantling of the Department of Education. One other thing, I have family and friends who serve in the federal service. They've been federal employees, many of them for 10, 15, 20 years. These are people who are incredibly smart, incredibly talented. They're such hard workers. And they're being told that their work is not important. They're being told that they can be fired at any minute. They're being put on administrative leave and not being able to do their jobs. And they care and they just want to be able to do their job to help to make our country better. So I ask that you stand up for the several thousand constituents of yours who are federal employees.
concur with the statements that have been made already. I just wanted to say that it bothers me what RFK had to say about autism, and it's you could say something. You could say that it's wrong. There are people on the autism spectrum who have jobs, and for what RFK said about folks with autism, I think it's deplorable. Thank you.
Preventing violence against women. I'm very used to speaking for people that do not have a voice. And I'm here to ask Representative Wittman what he will do to help all of the nonprofits that have lost their funding. How will we support victims? How will we prevent domestic violence? Where will victims turn when they do not have the resources that have been built from the ground up in our communities? What will you do to fix this? I want an answer. Thank you.
Sir.
Oh, me?
Yes.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Mike Venable. I live in Glen Allen. And Congressman Wittman, I know you've been a steadfast supporter of Donald Trump, who's pledged to make America great again. And he certainly has been busy, him and his administration in second term. In terms of a few things that are concerning to many of us, in terms of federal employees involved with DEI efforts, the administration has asked federal employees to self-report or narc on their coworkers who've been involved in DEI efforts. We've got ICE agents who were just the other day giving clearance to enter people's homes without warrants if they suspect illegal immigrants are there. We have polygraphs being given in federal agencies as the administration is looking for leaks. Another recent hit, I think it was just the other day, this is from the Department of Justice, you can put justice in air quotes, where they're allowing press to be subpoenaed to give up their sources for people who share information with them. So there's a lot concerning right now, and it seems we're not so much the land of the free as we're moving more towards a failed police state in Germany who we went to war with in the 1940s. So my question for Representative Wittman is, would you support changing the motto of the Trump administration to Make America Gestapo again?
Sure. It wasn't on. Hi, I'm Paige. So every morning I wake up, I won't use the language I normally do, but I always say, what did Trump do last night? Because he likes those midnight things that he does. So my main concern, actually there's so many, but to speak about it generally, when did it start to be okay to constantly lie? Like, when did that become normal to all of us? And you know, it's been going on for so long that, I don't know what happened, oh there, that we perceive it as normal. You know, we're like, oh, there they go again. So my deal is when you're gonna, I swear to God, I'm not doing that. I want to know when eventually.
Don't hold it on the bottom. Hold it up.
Oh, it's the bottom that does it. Oh, look at that. What do you know? My big thing is, you know, when did you lose your morality? Like, when did that happen? When did it become okay to stop cancer research for kids? When did it become okay to get rid of the, the Head Start program? My husband's a teacher, so he sees kids that the only meal they get is the free lunches. And, you know, so there are all these things happening that my concern is simple. I mean, when did you lose your morals? Like when you learn things, what's more important, your power, I guess? I swear to God I didn't touch it. Your power, or your morals. You know, it's an easy thing for me. Everything that is going on that is regarding education, anything that's going on, and I watch a podcast and they always say, speak truth to power. And I think that's something that I can't talk to you directly. It's something that the cowardly person, I think that they haven't learned. I mean, I don't really understand it. I don't get it. To me, it's very simple, you know. We have Elon. I don't even like to say his name. That's destroying the government with absolutely, there's no thought about anything. So people get fired that, you know, deal with our nuclear weapons. You know, I mean, things that keep us safe. And the government could give a crap about it. They just don't care. And that's very disheartening because in my eyes, it's just going to continue. It's just going to keep going on. And so for my part, I just show up. Like people say, what do you do? And I said, I just show up. I don't know what I'm going to do. So why can't you just show up? I mean, to me, that's an easy thing. People, as you can tell, because I'm kind of jittering. But yeah, that's it. Just show up. 5 million people showed up for hands off. It's growing. We can't, you know, we have to go with the momentum, and we've got it now. The town halls are important, but I mean, why doesn't he just show up? So I think it's pretty simple.
Hello, my name is Linda Forum, and I'm in Henrico County. I've lived in Richmond most of my life. Currently, I'm a realtor. I did spend 35 years in broadcasting before that, and I'm also a student of history, especially the Holocaust. I have my son, who is an avid reader, has much more time than I do. He sent me a pamphlet that was distributed in 1942 by the government information office, trying to help the public understand what Hitler was trying to do with his propaganda in the United States. I'd be happy to share that. It's a long pamphlet, but I'll send you a link to it if you'd like. You can also Google it. But it starts with this 2-paragraph quote from Adolf Hitler in Mein Kampf. And I have to read this to you if you don't mind. It's only 2 paragraphs. But Representative Wittman, what really kills me is, you know, you voted in 2020 not to agree that the election was actually that it had happened, it was truthful. I mean, you actually did that. And so let me read this. I sort of answers a lot of questions. This is a quote. At the bottom of their hearts, the great masses of people are more likely to be poisoned than to be consciously and deliberately bad. In the primitive simplicity of their minds, they are more easily victimized by a large rather than a small lie, since they sometimes tell petty lies themselves, but would be ashamed to tell big ones. An untruth of that sort would never come back into their heads, and they cannot believe that others would indulge in so vast an impudence as gross distortion. Even after being enlightened, they will long continue to doubt and waver, and will still believe there must be some truth behind it somewhere. For this reason, some part of even the boldest lie is sure to stick, a fact which all great liars and liar societies in the world know only too well and will make base use of it. This is from Adolf Hitler, Mein Kampf. I don't know what else to say.
name is Stephen Rast. I'm a voter here in the 1st Congressional District, and back during the 2024 election, I remember Donald Trump talking a lot about tariffs, and everybody assured me, well, he's not actually going to do that. That's just a negotiating tactic. During the 2020 election, Donald Trump and his team very strongly wanted more information and wanted to look into the results of the election. And so they completely tried to overthrow the results of the election. And I just think this highlights that when they say something, we're supposed to take this seriously, but not literally. They really push and move the goalposts on every single thing that they do. And it is very nervous. This makes me very nervous when Donald Trump says things like, we want to put homegrown criminals in El Salvador. That sounds very scary to me. It's very scary to me when Steve Bannon says we're looking to have a way for Donald Trump to run for the 2028 election. And so I'm not sure where the line is. And one of the scariest things is people like Rob Wittman will sit here and defend and say, well, the tariffs actually were a good thing, even though they were never supposed to be a real thing in the first place. It was never supposed to actually overturn the results of the 2020 election. Unless we could have actually done that, then it would have been right. And I'm very worried that when United States citizens, if they get sent to El Salvador, well, then it would have been a good thing in the whole time. And so I'm just worried how far they're going to move the goalposts and how far they're going to push this. And I'm hoping that Rob Wittman can assure me that he will not support a Trump administration attempting a 2028 campaign.
Good morning. Is it on? My name is Ralph Cummins, and thank you for hearing me, and Representative Wittman, thank you for not being here. I like your hat. I've written to you. I've called you many times. Despite the cheerful promises of your staff, I've never heard from you, so I guess it's my chance to talk to you. I want to talk about my daughter today. I wish you could meet her. She's the kind of kid you'd be very proud of. Raised right here in Henrico County. She was exhibited quite an aptitude for service at a very early age, and she chose community service over sports throughout junior high and high school. Went on to college, graduated with the highest honors you can possibly imagine, summa cum laude with the additional honors for a thesis in political science on the role of women in Latin American social justice movements. And she pursued a career in service after college, and while she was in college, she was named her senior year the volunteer of the year in her class. So instead of going after the riches or going to law school or business school, she went right into service. She wanted to go abroad and teach English, but she happened to graduate in the COVID year. So she rallied and she pivoted and she got a job working for a consulting firm that works for USAID. And so for the last 4 years, she has used her language skills to work with people in Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and other Latin American countries, and even some emerging countries in Europe. And her firm does basically one thing. They promote good governance programs and social justice and criminal justice programs to keep people in their countries and happy. And my daughter has been a frequent traveler to Latin America, and there's nothing that makes her more proud than to be a servant of America to promote democracy, but they keep people in their home countries. That's what they do, right? So I was on my way to London. I'm an international business person. In mid-January, I called her up, and she's getting ready to go to Guatemala. She was so excited about that. And 3 days later, her world came crashing down when an unelected government non-official and billionaire with billions of dollars of contracts before the government began to take apart the first agency, USAID, without any regard to what are the merits and what they should keep. Some of the things that I know, which I'll share with you, Representative Wittman, one of the first tactics, and I don't think the public knows much about this, was they withheld payments. These firms get paid in arrear. So they withheld payments for work that was done in the fourth quarter of 2024, which kneecapped all these firms financially. Only 2 or 3 of them had the financial wherewithal to actually pay law firms to go in and sue. And it immediately put people out of work. So that's just representative. And if you remember the famous quote by the non-elected government billionaire Elon Musk, was that could have gone to parties, but spent the weekend putting USAID through the wood chipper. So beyond this, the grotesque offensiveness and the immorality of that statement, that should have been a cue to you that something was amiss and that something needed to be done. Everybody is for reform, right? Reform's fine. This is not reform. This is a takedown of the government. So, you know, my daughter's dreams of serving the country have been somewhat crushed. 95% of her employees at her consulting firm were laid off immediately. And, you know, they're still struggling to figure out where they go next, right? So that the other cool irony of this whole thing, in case you don't know this, is other countries have labor laws. So the U.S. government right now is paying all of these, the majority of the employees are contractors working for these folks, are in other countries, and they are now being paid to do nothing. In some cases for 6 months, in some cases for a year, while the U.S. citizens in your district are being laid off with no severance because you must kneecap the firms. So that happened in America, and you sit by and you do nothing. Now, I want to say one thing to Representative Wittman. Most of us would like to be judged by our actions, and I'm sure you would too, right? You're rightfully proud of your education, your background, and you often talk about the things that you value in public. But your voting record, which represents your behavior, suggests that you don't actually live your values. My daughter lived her values, and you should be proud of having somebody in this district like her that was raised in this district. And yet you sit by and do nothing, and you won't return my phone calls, you won't even acknowledge my letters. And now you've admitted publicly that you have no power. You say that you don't have any power, that all you can do is vote for the budget, yes or no. If that's the way you feel, and if you would listen, and if you would recognize how you don't actually vote your own values, you should just resign.
Sorry, my name is Rachel Patterson. I'm a constituent from Chesterfield.
Sorry, it's hard, but you have to just be loud.
Can you hear me now? Sorry, my name is Rachel Patterson. I'm a constituent from Chesterfield. Mr. Wittman, I called your office practically every day since the inauguration. I even went up to your Glen Allen office and met with your district director there for about an hour. I've asked you many things. I don't get very good answers. They're usually pretty vague, so I don't expect anything else today. But particularly today, what I'm curious about is back in March, the USDA had to cut over $1 billion in funding. That was used for schools and food banks to buy food from local farmers. So my question for you today, Mr. Wittman, is what exactly do you plan to do to support Virginia's local farmers? What do you plan to do to support the constituents that need the food banks and the free meals from their schools?
Thank you.
My name is Sally Martin, and I'm a clinical social worker. I've worked in a private practice in Henrico County for more than a decade. Over the years, I've had clients come to sessions to complain or lament about their party or their person not winning. This is different. This is very, very different. Since the executive orders have started, my clientele is terrified. I see a family of immigrants that are here legally, but they are concerned that if they step out of line and make someone upset, that they could be sent back to a country that they have not seen in more than 20 years. I have clients of Puerto Rican descent that are afraid that they will be confused as non-citizens because English is not their first language. I cannot dismiss these fears. I cannot tell my clients that these are just anxious thoughts. When we see every day that ICE just does not care who they pick up or if they've made mistakes. And we see that our representatives, such as you, Mr. Wittman, do nothing to protect us or hold Trump accountable for the lack of due process that everyone in this country, citizen or not, deserves. I see people on disability whose food stamps have been cut up to 75%. While the price of groceries is increasing, we are taking money out of the pockets of our most vulnerable to deny them the ability to nourish themselves. How does that make sense, Mr. Wittman? They fear that if the government is trying to save money by cutting food stamps and Medicaid, that their disability could be cut as well. What should I tell my clients that fear that they may end up unhoused and on the streets because our leaders would like to decrease government spending? Many of my clients are young adults and in college. They greatly fear that they will have to drop out of college due to DOGE determining that their grants and scholarships are unimportant. And what of our college students that have disabilities? Will their accommodations to succeed be thrown out the window because of the government's war on DEI? Also, tell me, Mr. Wittman, how is defunding medical research going to make America great again? Additionally, many of my clients are LGBTQIA+. It breaks my heart to hear how Trump and his uneducated cult following talk about this population, especially the trans kids. Imagine trying to deal with depression or anxiety, or even just daily stressors, when your country is demanding that your gender-affirming medical treatments cease immediately or else. Imagine being attacked and berated by your government for a medical condition that you have no control over. Trans people no more choose a lifestyle than I choose to have a lifestyle with someone with bad hips. I get asked all the time, Sally, tell me it's going to be okay. My clients need to know that they are going to be safe and protected. So, Mr. Wittman, we need to know, are you working to keep us, your constituents, safe and protected? Personally, I'm willing to pay higher taxes if that means we can have basic protections for everyone in the United States. And please do not tell me that this is for my own good and the good of the economy when I see people suffering horrible abuses of power every day. The ends will never justify the means. When my clients ask me if it's going to be okay, I tell them it will be, eventually. I believe that because we, the people, will fight to defend our Constitution, we, the people, will fight for the checks and balances that the separation of powers is supposed to provide. The question is, Mr. Wittman, will you be fighting with us or against us?
Hi, I'm Ed Drackman from Glen Allen, and I want to say, first of all, that for the first time in a long time, I'm very proud to be an American. We're here in the town hall doing what Americans should be doing all over the country, and I feel very good about it. And I think back about the Norman Rockwell painting of the man standing up in the town hall, and I keep thinking, why isn't this going on all over the country? But more to the point in terms of why we're here, the sense of urgency. I've always felt there isn't enough urgency as to what's going on. Why are people not taking action? I get very upset, for example, when I read in the paper that dean of Southern California Law School, Edwin Chemerinsky, wanted deans of law schools to sign on to a statement against pressure on big law firms. And when I saw that one of the reasons was, well, it isn't bad enough yet really to take action. And I'm reminded of one of the things that the Professor Timothy Snyder, some of you may have heard of him, from Yale, one of 3 Yale professors who won't be at Yale anymore, moving to the University of Toronto next year. But Timothy Snyder said recently, I read recently in a column that he wrote, that it's important. I hear a lot of references to what happened in Nazi Germany. He says it's very important when people say, lest we forget, it's important to remember not just the final result, is to remember all the steps on the way to the final result. And one of the many, just to pick a couple right now, the assault on areas that could oppose what President Trump is doing. For instance, the assault not only on big law, but on the universities. And where is, Congressman Wittman, what is it, for example, of DEI? Are you against equity? Are you against fairness? Are you against justice? Say something. Not just, we don't like DEI anymore. Time to do it. Where are all of the people in the universities right now and in the colleges? Where are the demonstrations that I remember, as many of you do, what happened in the 1960s. When it was a question of should we go to a demonstration, be it in terms of civil rights or be it in terms of the Vietnam War, but which demonstration should we go to? And if we're waiting for things that, well, they're not so bad yet, when I read, just as one of so many examples, that they went into the Naval Academy, into the library, and they took out certain books that were not, quote, acceptable. Are we waiting for a book burning? Is that what we're waiting for?
Hi everyone, my name is Spencer Dukoff, and I first wanted to just express my gratitude at being able to be here to document a lot of these testimonies and to be able to share them with both Rob Wittman's office and Rob Wittman himself, but also the wider world in terms of social media and local news and national news. I think a lot of these actions that have been happening right here in the 1st District and in Richmond have been making waves outside of the 1st District, and I think that's why it's so important that we're all here. My plan initially was to just be a fly on the wall for this and not speak, but I feel compelled to speak to make several points very quickly. One of which is, I may be cynical, but we are all asking about Rob Wittman's stance on this or stance on that, or what is his true character, what does he really believe in? He's not some new spring chicken to being a legislator. He has been around. We know what he stands for. We know what his principles are and what his values are. Exactly. And I think what these events are expressing is our impatience and also our fury, honestly, at being taken for fools, as if somehow we can be told one thing and he can act another way, and that's okay. And I think what has motivated me to come out to these sorts of events is that resisting Donald Trump or Elon Musk or the system can feel really overwhelming. And dissent is inherently isolating when there are authoritarians on the rise. And so it's felt really good to be in community and to be able to exert some level of impact on a very local and small scale. And so while we're all discussing the litany of issues, atrocities, the litany of issues, derelictions of duty is the word I was looking for. I think we're trying to say, we need to work with the system, and he is our elected official right now, and hopefully we can nudge him in one direction or another. But I'm cynical. I don't believe that he is going to move in a certain direction. I believe that he is making a risk calculation with every stance he takes, that subservience to the supreme leader, to the party, to whatever base he believes that he is serving, supersedes any principle or duty to the Constitution or to his constituents who are here today. And the remedy for that is to vote him out of office. And so that's really all I wanted to say, is that this collective action is an expression of our dissatisfaction. The time is up for trying to nudge him a step this way. Can you vote that way? Can you protect us in this way? The train has left the station. We need to vote him out. We need to find a new representative to represent these constituents.
Good morning, all. My name is Therese Addington. I'm originally from New Orleans. I'm a 73-year-old woman living solely on my deceased husband's Social Security, so that's a big issue for me. I want to thank Skylar, especially, for being from New Orleans, and then I moved to Midlothian last year, so I haven't voted in an election where, for him, let's put it that way. My question, it really is to all of you. How does he keep getting elected? Who is voting for him? And where do we need to go to talk to the people who want him to be in office? Is that a possibility? I mean, I'm willing to meet with them, but I'm not voting. That's what I'm trying to find out, because I'm new to that, and I don't know. I've been to 2 town halls. People are very passionate. You speak so well, and everything you say I agree with. I just don't get it. So if somebody wants, I want to go and talk to them. Is it Mechanicsville? Is that what the issue is? I will be there. I'm willing to help. But this shit has got to stop.
So Mr. Wittman, because of what's happening to our democracy, right? All the chaos, all the hate, all the fear, all of the lunacy, right? Dude, this is not my fault, right? I didn't vote for that guy. But, Mr. Congressman, this is your fault because you're staying silent. You're refusing to stand up to him. You have let this happen. If you care about this country, then act like it. Speak up. You've stayed silent. You've looked the other way. You've chosen party over country and cowardice over courage. This is your fault. You don't get to hide forever. We see you. Well, maybe not here. That you won't do your job and stand up for the people. And one more thing. Eggs. Eggs are really expensive now, right? Why are they so expensive? I'll tell you why. Eggs are so expensive because all the chickens are in Congress.
Hi, my name is Sarah Woodhouse, and I'm a retired physician and resident in Henrico County, and you are my representative. My question is, starting today, will you please begin using your enormous power as a Republican in Congress, together with your moral authority and expertise as a doctor in public health, to stand up for citizens of the 1st District and all of Virginia and the United States. As a retired physician myself, I know that destroying and recklessly cutting funding for medical research at universities and at NIH and HHS and USAID is inhumane, heartless, short-sighted, senseless, foolish, and ignorant. You should be speaking out against all of these, using both your voice and your vote to restore this funding. The latest immoral and self-defeating cut to health services that I read about just last night is that the Trump budget draft calls for the end of a $56 million annual program that distributes Narcan and trains emergency responders in its use. As an expert in public health, you know that Narcan has saved thousands and thousands of lives. Please do your best to work against that cut. Congressman Wittman, please develop some courage. Speak out against the cuts to the Narcan program and raise your voice, and refuse to vote for any bill supported by Trump and your fellow Republicans until funding has been restored for medical research, health care, and health education.
Hi, my name's Karen. I live here in Henrico County. I don't normally come out to these parts of this area, but I'm in the near West End. And it's a drive anywhere, in Richmond. You have to drive more than 10 minutes. So what I wanted to say, and this isn't directed at Mr. Wittman, I mean, he will hear it, but to me, educating people, our friends, our neighbors, our family, on how important it is that the local officials share your beliefs, and not just the national election. People, our representatives in Virginia, like Mr. Van Valkenburg, are so much more important now than ever. Because if a lot of this funding is cut nationally, it's going to come down to the states to make some of these decisions. So I think it's, and all the way up to the Supreme Court. I mean, I've talked to people. It really blows my mind that people don't know, well, if you vote Republican, and that's what you feel, you need to vote all the way up the ballot because they're responsible for who goes on the Supreme Court. Some people really don't know that whoever is in charge, whoever is elected president, is the person that puts people on the Supreme Court. I mean, I really think people don't know that. They know, but they don't really understand that it starts at the bottom locally, and you have to vote all the way up the line. It's more important than ever. And of course, I'm not in favor of, who's in charge right now. So I'm trying to be nonpartisan, but I can't do that in this room very well. So that, I don't know if that makes sense, but you gotta really educate people. I mean, I try to talk to my parents who are octogenarians. I mean, they never even thought of these things. They didn't talk about these things when they were even kids, And everyone's so divided now. I will say, one thing I learned from Michelle Obama, I saw her speak in Richmond, was that make connections with your neighbors before you talk politics with them. Because it's so important to know people on a personal level, and that enables you to be able to engage with them about all of these topics. Because if you know them as a person, before you try to tell them what you really feel, they're going to accept you more, and accept your conversation. So if we're trying to make a movement, you have to turn people from the other side. And that all starts with community like this and conversations with your friends and neighbors. All right, that's all.
Yes. Well, she's going to call me up. She's supposed to.
So I'm waiting this.
Advertising, people here to film.
And it's kind of hard to even really know what to say because there's just so much swirling in my brain right now. I've been in Richmond 20 some odd years. 2 daughters, one who's Army. Try to get through this without doing great. I'm also crusty Gen Xer, latchkey kid, military brat. We raised on that America had a flawed past, so we were always going to be a force for good. Not always doing it right, maybe, but always a force for good. And raised on Gorbachev, tear down that wall, not Russia, do what you want. Come on and play on the So my rhetorical question to Representative Wittman is, given what we've seen over the past 10 years, can we really claim to be the good guys anymore? And it makes my heart hurt and my blood boil to even have to say that out loud. But I was, again, raised that we were a force for good, and the past 10 years, and he's older than me, he's at the front row of this, and it just makes me so angry that you can just sit back and watch this degradation of our position, right? I work with Europeans and folks in Brazil and Argentina, and there was a time that America was seen as this shining whatever the cliche is. Thank you. And I even had a German colleague, this was about 10 years ago, tell me one time, he's like, I love working with Americans because they're always optimistic. And if things are going sideways on a project, it's okay. Actually, I find the Brazilians are much like that too. They're a ton of fun. It's like the Americans were always going to be optimistic and look for solutions and just plow through it, with teamwork. And now I feel like a fish rots from the head, and our national discourse now, it's like the cruelty is the point, and they revel in the ugliness. And I can't even believe that we're at this point. And it just breaks my heart. And I can go on for an hour. I'm scared what our military is going to be asked to do. I don't know whether I came a little late, I don't know if anyone's brought up the type stuff, of course. So then another rhetorical question or point to make to Mr. Wittman is, he's watched the same thing that we watched for the past 10 years. He should know by now, because I certainly do, it never gets better. You cannot appease this man. It never gets better. And so you can hide your head in the sand and pray that this will just go away and then we'll just kind of move on and things will go back to being normal. I don't know. But it never does, right? Signalgate is not going away. All of these crazy budget cuts are not going to go away. I don't understand how the Liz Cheney quote is always in my mind, and I won't be able to repeat it verbatim, but Donald Trump, thank God, let's hope will one day go away. That the stain will remain on you forever. And you enabled him, right? I have less respect for him than I do for the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world. They're just crazy. They're just crazy. And Biggs, all those people. He knows better. Representative Wittman, you know better. And there are a lot of people that know
I sense that we're starting to lose some folks. I don't want to silence anyone, but we did put together a Mentimeter poll with 5 questions to poll the room so that we can, in our open letter to Rob Wittman, actually present some data on opinions inside the room. And I want to be sure we get to that. But I also want to give a second, I always pronounce your name, Swen, to give a couple of announcements about upcoming events.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Alison Crichton-Price. This is a bipartisan event, and I want to say thank you very much to Democracy Circle for putting this together. I think it's an important event. And I love that I see some familiar faces here today, and also some not so familiar faces. I also happen to be the chair of the local Henrico County Democratic Committee. As a bipartisan event, I would have welcomed my counterpart in the Henrico GOP. Unfortunately, he's not here. So, as a blatantly partisan person, I am going to say, as an immigrant to the United States, I came here from Ireland when I was 23. I hold 2 passports. I'm a naturalized citizen. I go home every summer to bring my children home to be familiar with their ancestry, my homeland, their cousins, aunties, uncles, grannies, and granddads. And this is the first time that I've ever felt nervous that something could happen when I'm coming back. And I'm not being hyperbolic about that. You know, I've been somebody that's been involved in progressive politics in Henrico for, since the Armageddon in 2016. I became a citizen so that I could vote for Hillary Clinton. Yes. The very first vote I ever cast in my home country was for Mary Robinson, who was the very first female president of Ireland. And I wanted to be able to do the same thing in my newly adopted country. That didn't work out so well. So, but I have been very involved citizen ever since. I feel a lot of deja vu from the days of 2017. And back then we also had a very absent and terrible, hypocritical congressman by the name of Dave Bratt. And so, Henrico had a huge part to play in booting that guy and electing a wonderful, dynamic, incredible woman who went on to just soar, right? And this November, we're going to elect the very first governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we're going to send a Democratic Lieutenant Governor, a Democratic Attorney General. We're going to increase our majority in the House, which means that, what does that mean? It means that we're going to keep ourselves safe. We're going to help to keep ourselves safe against the horrors that are coming out of DC. And so, the other part of that I would just like to address real quick, and then I'll give the dates, is that just like we did in 2018, we flipped seats left, right, and center. We were hoping that we'd flip 5 in 2018. We flipped 15. Like, it was wild. We flipped the 7th, which used to be Eric Cantor's district. It was considered to be, I think there was a higher spread of points that Dave Bratt won by than Rob Wittman won by, right? So this is a really important, Henrico is ground zero. We have got right here in this district where Twin Hickory is, we have got the marquee flippable seat that's going to make sure that David Owen, who this morning Rob Wittman posted, and I do feel it was a bit trolly, he posted a photograph of himself with his arms around David Owen, who's the last Republican GA representative left in Henrico. Posted a photograph of himself and David Owen at an opening for an Art Star Academy just up the road in Henrico. That's what he did this morning, and that's what he posted. And it did feel provocative. You know, I'm biased, but I'm just going to say, Dave Bratt used to do the same thing. I think that Rob Wittman is, not to put too fine a point on it, is pooping his pants. Because he understands that Henrico knows how to organize. When Henrico gets together, does our thing, this year, we're going to send a signal, not just to Virginia, but to the rest of the country. Because what happens in Henrico happens in Virginia. Inevitably, the next year, we're the canary down the line. It shows and sends a signal to the rest of the country about what's coming next. It has happened every single time. So I would say to you guys, right now, to be able to manage our anxiety is to be able to do some things. So that means showing up to Senator Van Valkenburg's town hall next Tuesday at Tuckahoe Library. It means showing up to Neighbors for Change right here for the forum. One of these candidates is going to help us get rid of David Owen, right? That one of these people is going to be an target for this district. And all of that activity is going to make sure that we're softening the ground to get rid of Wittman next year. And we never know there could be somebody in this room that is going to be that person. We don't know. Right now, I've got candidates for the next guy. So the enthusiasm is there. If you want to get involved, please, we're one of the best committees in Central Virginia. We can give you a job, whatever you want to do or volunteer, get something that will fit. You will be part of what we're going to do this year. And HenricoDemocrats.org. And we're going to try really hard next year to Dave Bratt your ass. I'm going to hand you back over to Jenny. This is a wonderful new grassroots org. It's all good, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we're all going to do together next. Thank you.
A reminder, if you have not signed up to receive our email alerts from Democracy Circle, see someone with a volunteer tag on your way out. And we will give you a QR code to get on our Google form, or you can sign a piece of paper on the way out as well. Okay, so we're going to start this Mentimeter poll. You take out your phones, and you want to go to menti.com.